Greetings, and you've been pulled into the Black Dimension. I am Kev, and Roger and Donnie are here also, and we're here to discuss that Delroy Lindo has joined the MCU in the upcoming film Blade, and we're also here to pose the question: where's Wesley? As in Wesley Snipes, because if anything, with the Wesley Snipes Blade trilogy really set the tone for what would you know become of the comic book film genre. Um, what's going on, Donnie? What do you think of that sentiment?
Um, Wesley Snipes for life. They should have brought that man in there in some capacity. Uh,
Oh,
but from what we know, they probably left him alone because his tax issues.
oh, yeah, and I mean it might be other stuff going on there as well. What's going on, Roger?
Not much, that much, but what? Wesley gonna appear somewhere. We just don't know where yet. But they ain't gonna leave Wesley out there like that. He basically can. I mean, we can give him credit for creating the comic book universe in film as we know it today. We can really can't credit him with that. So I'm pretty sure he'll be taken care of some kind of way.
Yeah, I mean they should at least give him a short cameo to where he walks in, kind of like where they did with Ong. I don't know if y'all watched Ong Bak when they had the Ong Bak movie. They had Jackie Chan walk past the guy who was playing in Ong Bak. I think when they did the rundown, they had Arnold Schwarzenegger walk past the Rock, kind of like a handing off of the torch. So, I would like to see Wesley Snipes put into this movie in some way, shape, or form, even if he's not a major character. Let's at least bring him into the form and acknowledge him and what he did for the uh, uh, Marvel movie franchise as we know it. Because without Wesley Snipes, the franchise just wouldn't be there. It just wouldn't. I mean, you could talk about all the movies that came before Iron Man and all this stuff, but really it doesn't go anywhere without Wesley Snipes as Blade.
Well, you know what though? I don't. I there is a chance that Wesley Snipes don't want to do anything small, because Marvel could be taking care of him in some other way. Not saying that Marvel has to do it, but if you're an actor right now, do you want to just take a cameo in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Because that'll basically say you're not going to participate in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in a much bigger way. So
Well, you know what? I wouldn't say that because the chick who played in the Eternals, she was in the Marvel universe in another movie. So I wouldn't necessarily rule it out. But what I
but
would say is, Wesley Snipes even influenced the comic books, which that was unheard of before this. So I want Wesley to take some kind of part in this movie.
okay, but you know what? I'm just gonna say you did say the way you kind of proved my point by saying, yeah, some chick was in a movie instead of that chick's name.
Well, I
That's a
don't
little
I don't
bit
know the
different,
chick's name,
but
but she is the leader of the Eternals at this point. So I mean,
but that's what I'm saying. But if Wesley Snipes is in it, we all know it's Wesley Snipes. I'm just saying we understand exactly who Wesley Snipes is already at this point. So it would be a little bit different. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, but I would say that as due to the first two Blade films that the MCU definitely has a tough act to follow. But how can you say a tough act to follow when it's the MCU? So whatever they do with the character of Blade, it'll probably be toned down from the violence of the original films. I mean, they'll find a way to try to make something work, but I don't think it's going to be nearly that bloody, when you're talking about, especially with Disney involved. Now, let's discuss the other part of why we're here for a moment. Yeah, it's like Delroy Lindo. He joins Marvel's Blade reboot, and There's anywhere from speculation to confirmation of the character that Delroy Lindo is playing. Then some may say that he is playing the character of Jamal Afari. Jamal Afari is, of course, well, not many people know this because they're used to Blade's mentor being Abraham Whistler, who was played by actor Chris Christopherson in the original trilogy of films. But according to, I guess, comic book history, Jamal Afari was, of course, the mentor of Blade. Donnie, you have some insight on this, don't you?
All right, so yeah, I did some digging, did some research. So basically, what you have is Jamal Afari is a black Englishman. So he's from the UK, right? He was a vampire hunter, self-taught, who was whooping ass and taking names. He was in America. He ended up getting old. He had a bunch of battles, apparently, even with Dracula himself. Um, Dracula is a character in the MCU, a very powerful one at that. He got into a fight with Dracula and apparently walked away. So this was a bad man, right? By all accounts. For whatever reason, in the original Blade movie with Wesley Snipes, they whitewashed him. They gave us Abraham Whistler. So that apparently was a shock. It was new to me. It bust my bubble, right? Um, he was never around in the comics before that. He was never. So his first comic book, the White Mentor, in the comics, he came out in 2002. That was the first time he was in the comic books. Prior to that, he was in a cartoon, the original. Well, I wouldn't say the original, but the Spider-Man comic book that everybody liked in the 90s, 96, 95. He was in that. But prior to that, he was always Jamal Lafar. He was always a black man. So whitewashing him, it was something they did in that movie. Hopefully, you know, going forward, we're going to get these characters the way that they originally intended. And I think the story is going to be better because if Whistler was cool in that movie, he's going to be a badass when it comes to this new adaptation because that's what the character was. He was a badass.
So what they make up for in not having it as bloody and as violent, they're probably going to stay truer to the comic book continuity, and I can kind of see it being that way because they like a lot of these movie franchises, especially back in the day, and I mean I think they're still doing it today, and they're just calling it representation, but they would tell like all black franchises that they have to add a white character to I guess make it more balanced or to have them involved in some kind of way. So I guess the
White
results
savior
of that,
complex.
yeah, white savior complex. So yeah, so I guess the results of that would be the creation of Abraham Whistler for the original Blade trilogy of films, which I would I did like the way the character Abraham Whistler was presented, but if I had known that Jamal Afari had existed first, I would have felt a little cheated. Not me, but that's just me and the kind of moviegoer I am, and I'm one of these. I guess you can say I'm kind of a purist when it comes to source material. If you deviate from the source material too much, I'm probably going to be a little bit more judgy about the product itself. And if I had known this, Abraham Whistler probably would not have entertained me as much as he originally did. So, yeah.
Nah, because I'm looking at this character. Jamal Afari was a badass. This motherfucker was whooping ass and taking names. Um, it's sort of the same arc. Apparently, in the comic books, Jamal Afari he becomes a vampire. But with the comic books, they deal with that in a comic booky way. He dies, he comes back, and he dies again. But that is, I think that story would have been much greater. But knowing what we know about Hollywood movies back in the day, they had to have a white savior, somebody for likability. You couldn't have two strong black characters that came in and kicked ass and took names, killed a bunch of white people, even if they were vampires. and you just couldn't do that. So, uh, it is what it is. I am curious to see how they're going to do this movie, being that Blade was originally an R rating. So, what are we going to get with this Disney film? Are we going to get, a true to life Disney film where it has to be PG-13? Because to be honest, I don't think Blade is going to hit the same, where Blade is not cutting motherfuckers up left and right, and you seeing blood gushing off and
Yeah.
people being split in half.
Yeah, and I mean you're dealing with vampires, bloodsuckers. People beings who drink blood. I mean, of course, blood would have to be incorporated somehow, but they always try to find this little cheesy way to do things. And I believe that you're right. It has to have the same like just violence kind of for the story to make sense. It's just like they're bringing Deadpool to the MCU, and they're having these debates about how he should be presented because, of course, Deadpool is a super violent character. So, I mean, there's
Right.
two super violent characters that you have to worry about because they've been introduced to Disney. So,
Well,
Yeah.
the trying to contain some of this violence is going to be a trick while trying to make it an entertaining story based on the actual character. But there's ways to get around it because, you know, well, see, I don't know. When dealing with vampires, yeah, you can't really show all the bloodshed and things like that. You can still be able to do a lot of damage. You just can't necessarily show it being bloody damage. Now, seeing that vampires do drink blood, can you actually pull this off without showing a lot of bloody damage? I think it's possible. You don't have to
So
show blood gushing out of somebody's head to know that they out of there. I mean, it's gonna be tricky, but
so
I
my
they
understanding is a lot of feedback, but yeah, my understanding is that the rating system for movies has kind of had a moving sliding bar. You can get away with more and more. Apparently, like you can say you can drop an F bomb in a movie and it still be a PG-13 movie. Uh, but it can only be
only
one.
one though. Only
Yeah,
one,
only
yeah.
one. So I'm curious what the scale is going to allow them to do, being that a vampire is, by nature a bloody creature that is eating, destroying, and killing. So, are you able to kill these and slice these vampires up, and it still be considered a PG-13 because these are fictional? I don't know, demonic type creatures, or is this going to slide the bar all the way to an R rating? And if we are going to have to get an R rating, I can't see this being on Disney Plus. Therefore, there is it going to be on Hulu? What are they going to do with this? My feelings on the subject is these type of movies have to remain bloody, violent, and on the R rating scale. So that being said, they're going to have to create I guess, a set of movies that keep them in that dynamic. But if you have these characters on the R rated scale, that means they also aren't going to be able to interact with the more wholesome characters, right? So you're not going to have uh, new Captain America, uh, the Black Falcon, as they said in the TV show. But you can't have him interact with Blade per se. So again, my theory with the whole Marvel universe is they're going to slide from different tier levels and go to different heroes of certain tiers. I would think that the entire underworld, or the dark magical nefarious type creatures, like, so you would have Black Knight, you would have Blade, you would have Ghost Rider. These type of characters, they're all going to be in the R-rated genre because they're not clean superheroes. Even the comics, they kicking ass and taking names. So my question is are they going to separate? Are they going to have a different set of genres? Because this, while kids watch a lot of these movies, this is really for adults at this point. So let's separate it and keep it moving. Are they going to do that? Well, I mean, what do y'all think?
Well, I'm pretty sure there'll be a temptation for Marvel to put out some R movies. Um, Now, the thing is, what are they trying to represent? Because it's kind of a political issue. Because you can put out some R movies, but you're still Marvel, and at this point, Marvel's already established that the kids are going to be coming to these movies. So, do you put out an R-rated movie and basically tell parents that your kids stay home? And even if you make an R-rated movie at this point, then you'll have people say, "Well, you already know kids are going to want to watch these movies." So it's a tricky situation for them at this point. But um,
Well, you know what?
I think they might just.
They
Well, I was
did
gonna say I think they
Deadpool.
might want to just take the thing as if we just have to make R-rated movies to put it across the way we need to put it across, well, parents just gonna have to be parents and you gonna have to just let that be their problem. Now how do you say that politically correct is gonna be the trick.
So if you
But
remember with Deadpool, Deadpool's an R-rated movie, but they did a PG-13 version of the Deadpool movie.
well, I didn't
I
see
don't
that
know.
version. Yeah, that's the version I remember seeing.
Yeah, so I don't think that works for every movie, but they did a PG-13 version of Deadpool. They did like um basically had Deadpool telling a story to a kid, and it was weird, but they did it. So they he interjected in the points where it hit R-rated. So my question is can they do that with a Blade? Can they do that with a Ghost Rider, etc. down the line?
Well, I already said what I said about Blade. I'm talking about vampires and blood. Like, I mean, vampires and blood. Just think about it. I mean, why would you take the one thing that has like the most impact on the story? Beings that drink blood. There's going to be blood, and and hopefully it's not like that Venom. There should have been Carnage movie. I mean,
There
there
should have
needs to
been
be actual
Garnet.
like they didn't like they need to have some actual stuff going on in here. I feel as if this movie needs to be violent. I mean, it is what it is. Now, can Marvel in the MCU possibly can find a way to make it work? Probably, but let me put it to you like this: if you're going to want that eternal separation from you know the Wesley Snipes trilogy of films, if you're going to want that eternal separation, or you're not going to want them to refer back to the Wesley Snipes films, then you're going to want to make this film bloody. But if you want a chance of people saying that Wesley Snipes is still the true Blade, then you'll water it down. That's what I think.
Well, you know what? They got Delroy Lindo in here. He's a great actor. Sure, he can do a lot of great dramas and things like that, but I like him being violent as a character in the film. Go ahead, make it bloody, make it rated R. Let the parents figure it out.
Yeah, and Delroy Lindo is a British actor, so casting him as Jamal Afari, British UK guy, is very appropriate. you know, so
Yeah,
so
you don't have to
though
take on
if
every
they
problem as a studio. You don't have to take on every problem as a studio. Some stuff the parents can figure out.
yeah also and and it's like this for Jamal Afari, the badass character that he is, and in Blade, you know how badass he is. Yeah, I think that they better do it like Nintendo did back in the '90s. Give everybody the Mortal Kombat that they're supposed to get instead of trying to give them some watered down version. Hopefully, Disney figures that out with Blade, but we will see.
Man, listen, y'all got to remember at the end of Blade, when Blade killed with Deacon Frost, that motherfucker exploded. he, he exploded. Blood was everywhere. You have to. There's no way. There's no way you can't do it. There's just no way. I think in Blade
I
Two,
I personally can live. I was gonna say
In
I
Blade
personally
2,
can
he
live
jumped
with a
into a pool of blood.
rated R Marvel. Say I personally can live with Marvel rated R movies, and I'm sure the vast um, majority of the viewing public can also live with it. We'll just make the adjustments. Some kids gonna have to just wait for a while, and so that's gonna be my advice to Disney or Marvel. Some folks gonna have to wait a while. They'll be all right. They'll be
And let me
clamoring to see it later.
and let me say this. Let me say this. You ain't got to make every movie for the kids. You ain't got to be like, oh my God, like little Jimmy wants to see Blade, but Blade's rated R, and he's just crying his eyes out, and his world ended. Oh my God, please make this Blade movie PG-13. There ain't gonna be people saying that. Come on now.
I mean, let's
Like
just be honest. Shang-Chi was for kids, right?
yeah,
Um, we'll give you Iron Man. Iron Man was technically really wasn't, but it was for kids, right? Iron Man 2 was a little on the rough side. Captain America, all these people are wholesome. Blade in his movie was saying, fuck that. He was getting one. He was cutting people in half. Do you remember the opening scene of Blade where they was in the club and the dude was in there and he was following some chick and Blade grabbed that motherfucker by the nuts?
oh yeah.
Like Blade grabbed a transgender by the nuts. You can't do that in a PG-13 movie. That's what we loved about Blade. Blade was violent, gory. He was for really real out there. Are you gonna neuter Blade for the purpose of having him on Disney Plus?
Probably. I mean, they have. I mean, we live in an era where movie companies don't care about making continuity errors just to try to please a very small group of people. And we see this time and time again. Egos will probably lead to them saying that, oh, we can make it work without the blood and slicing up folks. And even though a blade has a sword literally as a weapon, and once again, I'm saying vampires and blood, vampires and blood. So
And the name of the character is Blade. Let him cut something. Let it bleed. Let's move on. Marvel can stand some R-rated movies.
yeah, okay. Well, like I said, I think Delroy Lindo is a very appropriate choice to add to this film. I like this work in the past, and movies that have like a very extreme fantasy such as this is right up his alley. If like one of the first films that I do remember seeing Delroy Lindo in was Jet Li's The One. you know, that's some throwback stuff that we can talk about later on this channel. But shoot. Anyway, is there any other points that has to be made about this? It's that like we are getting a character in the MCU that should really have been in the original Blade films, but because of that white savior complex, we didn't see Jamal Afari emerge. Back in the day, but I will give these props to Disney and the MCU. They're letting it do. They're doing it right now. So I mean, how much different do you think the Blade films would have been? Excuse me, if they had had a true to continuity Jamal Afari in it.
I think they would have been great, but I think that white people would have probably been less apt to seeing a movie like that, which it makes sense why they did it. I think white people want to see Blade go in and kick ass, but they don't want to see Blade having a black mentor teaching him how to effectively fuck up white folks. So I think that they had to have the white mentor in there in order to make this something that was palatable for the white taste buds. Getting a little deep,
That's
but oh well.
interesting take, but my thing is, it's a movie. Let it ride. Those who want to see it gonna see it, and a lot of people in those power positions, they just assume what people gonna do. It's hard to really know. So if you got your great character, if you got great content to build a movie around, put it out there and let's make it do what it do. And I know it's easy for me to say, and when I don't have the purse strings to $1 million budgets, and people who don't necessarily make money back lose jobs and things like that. I get all of that, but at the end of the day, you know, this is like Monday morning quarterbacking, but they're gonna be all right. So I think, but honestly, I think the best move right now just to go and let Marvel have how they rated our movies, and some certain kids will just have to wait to see it, or they'll have to wait till their parents allow it to stream at home, but they'll be all right. They'll be all right.
All right, but hopefully, and I think that we can agree on this is that they include Wesley Snipes in some kind of way, because the original Blade film is without a doubt the trailblazer of what would be things to come as far as comic book movie films. I mean, some were misses, but definitely a lot of hits, and just kind of pay homage to the hard work that Wesley Snipes did, leading up to everything that we're seeing in the present day. So, yeah, or at least a shout out or something, have him play a cashier or something. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, is, Delroy Lindo casting is a good choice, and I'm looking forward to seeing whenever this Blade film happens. Starring Mahershala Ali. Anything else, fellas, on this?
Nah, I mean Delroy Lindo is always a great choice. I'm definitely gonna be there when it comes out. Simple as that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. So I'm up for it.
Okay, alrighty. That'll be it for now. Thank you for joining us once again, and you have been pulled into the black dimension. Hopefully, you can find your way out. Till next time, peace.